Travel along, Catholic pilgrims, as we learn from St. Augustine, Doctor of the Church, while we read his book, Confessions. Welcome, Catholic pilgrims. It's a great day to read St. Augustine. We'll jump right in to Book 5, Chapter 7, on page 98. As soon as it became clear to me that Faustus was quite uninformed about the subjects in which I had expected him to be an expert, I began to lose hope that he could lift the veil and resolve the problems which perplexed me. Of course, despite his ignorance of these matters, he might still have been a truly pious man, provided he were not a Manichee. The Manichean books were full of the most tedious fictions about the sky and the stars, the sun and the moon. I badly wanted Faustus to compare these with the mathematical calculations which I had studied in other books, so that I might judge whether the Manichean theories were more likely to be true or at least equally probable. But I now began to realize that he could not give me a detailed explanation. When I suggested that we should consider these problems and discuss them together, he was certainly modest enough not to undertake the task. He knew that he did not know the answers to my questions and was not ashamed to admit it, for unlike many other talkative people whom I have had to endure, he would not try to teach me a lesson when he had nothing to say. He had a heart, and though his approach to you was mistaken, he was not without discretion. He was not entirely unaware of his limitations and did not want to enter rashly into an argument which might force him into a position which he could not possibly maintain and from which he could not easily withdraw. I liked him all the better for this, because modesty and candor are finer equipment for the mind than scientific knowledge of the kind that I wished to possess. I found that his attitude towards all the more difficult and abstruse questions was the same. The keen interest which I had had in Manichean doctrines was checked by this experience, and my confidence in the other teachers of the sect was further diminished when I saw that Faustus, of whom they spoke so much, was obviously unable to settle the numerous problems which troubled me. His enthusiasm for literature, which I was then teaching to students at Carthage, often brought us together, and I set out to read with him either the books which he knew by repute and was eager to study, or such works as I thought suitable for a man of his intelligence. But once I had come to know him well, all my endeavors to make progress in the sect, as I had intended, were abandoned. I did not cut myself off entirely from the Manichees, but as I could find nothing better than the beliefs which I had stumbled upon more or less by chance, I decided to be content with them for the time being, unless something preferable clearly presented itself to me. So it was that, unwittingly and without intent, Faustus, who had been a deadly snare to many, now began to release me from the trap in which I had been caught. For in the mystery of your providence, my God, your guiding hand did not desert me. Night and day, my mother poured out her tears to you and offered her heart blood in sacrifice for me, and in the most wonderful way you guided me. It was you who guided me, my God. For man's feet stand firm, if the Lord is with him to prosper his journey. What else can save us but your hand, remaking what you have made? In my younger years, I absolutely thrived off of putting people in their place. If I knew that they were wrong, I went in for the kill. My goal was to humiliate and punish the person. All this made me feel superior to them, and I liked having the upper hand. And early on in my posting days on social media, I still carried a lot of this behavior with me. If a Protestant or a non-believer showed up, I wanted to humiliate them and punish them. I just wanted to be right and show them what an idiot they were for being wrong. Now, mind you, I didn't want other people to do that to me, but I was happy to dish it out to others. And I'm not going to lie, I still struggle with this. And if I don't pray before responding to a dissenter, you may see this side of me, unfortunately. But because I now acknowledge that this is a problem with me, I am much more aware, and so I know what I have to do to give people an out or let them down easy. And so one of the first things I do is sometimes I just give other people the last word. And oh, that is so hard. But sometimes I just let it be, even if what they continue to say is factually wrong. Another thing I do is sometimes I just don't address their comments at all. Usually it's because I'm not in the mood to enter the fray, and that may be a grace from God. But sometimes I am just able to walk away. I didn't used to be able to walk away, but I can do it now. Now, other times I will point out where people are wrong or I believe that they're wrong, and they'll argue back. And then I'll ask them to provide me with evidence. Usually, I'll ask for a primary source to prove their belief. And I do this for two reasons. The main reason is that if there is good evidence, maybe I need to look into it. Maybe I'm wrong and I'd like to see what the evidence is. The second reason is because it lets people off the hook. Many times when I ask for evidence for their case, they will tell me that they need to go look for it and they'll get back to me. Most often they don't, but it lets them off the hook and they can bow out with dignity. Maybe they forget, or maybe they realize that they just don't have the evidence, but either way, they don't have to be disgraced. St. Augustine here today talks about Faustus, and he realizes that Faustus just doesn't have the answers, and in fact, he's wrong on things. Not everything, but on certain things. And to Faustus's credit, he admits that he doesn't know everything. He knows what his limits are, and St. Augustine doesn't try to humiliate him over that. In fact, he says, quote, "I liked him all the better for this because modesty and candor are finer equipment for the mind than the scientific knowledge of the kind that I wished to possess," unquote. Because St. Augustine was actually trying to seek the truth, he didn't need to destroy those who just didn't quite have what he wanted. He moved on and was able to save their dignity. And that is a really good reminder for us all. That'll be all for today, Catholic Pilgrims. Tomorrow we will cross the threshold of page 100. But until then, live the faith boldly and travel well.